Okay, Willie and I will both talk. I want to thank, first of all, we're going to thank NILOA and all the folks here who did a tremendous job this weekend. It's amazing. I took a lot of pictures. This room was full today. Went to some of the conference folks who are actually interested in what referees do, and it's good PR that they see a room full of referees talking about stuff. So I want to thank NILOA, the executive board, in particular the guys that presented today, PJ, KO, BA, Greg and Robbie, for all the stuff that they did, the super job that they presented those things with. I particularly enjoy Robbie's because it's interactive. It allows us to talk about things that aren't black and white, that are gray, which is what the whole rule book is all about. My job is to talk about the NCAA side of things, from rules committee to the process of how we do changes, central hub site, the test, and obviously the video. But before I do that, I'm going to ask Willie to come up and make a couple comments from his perspective.
Thanks, Tommy. Can you all hear me back there with this thing? Great. I'm Willie Scroggs. I'm the Secretary Rules Editor for men's lacrosse. I've been pleased to be able to attend this meeting over a number of years. And I said to PJ just a little while ago, I am so impressed by how we've come as a group, particularly you guys here at NILOA. I was there at the beginning, 100 years ago, back in Hartford, Connecticut, in a snowstorm, and with Warren Kimber, and we kept telling the organization at that time, we got to get organized. You got to get more professional. And boy, am I proud of what you guys have done. And I tell that a lot of times to deaf ears in our sport, but I tell them all the time because I believe that. I believe you guys have done a wonderful job, and your leadership is doing a great job. The one item that I told the committee that I would mention here, because it seems like every year we have an item on on an emphasis of what we're thinking about, and that's the coaches on the field. It's a boogaboo with a lot of people. And every year we've put it in the points of emphasis, and every year, the next year, we got to do the same thing because we'll see situations throughout the course of the year where the coaches just take advantage of some things. We need you guys to step in and do something about it. I'm not telling you zero tolerance like we've done with the face-off, which we think has been a great improvement. I'm not asking, and the committee's not asking, for zero tolerance. But enough is enough sometimes, guys. And you're the only one that can do anything about it during a ball game. And I think if we get our hands on it, our arms around it a little bit, it won't be an issue the years to follow. But it's not a very professional look in our sport to have our coaches 5, 15 yards out on the field yelling and screaming at the zebras sometimes. Sometimes, you know, maybe to get a timeout. You can do something about that, and the committee is asking you to do something about that. So that was what I told them that I would mention up here, aside from the fact that you've got the respect of the NCAA for your organization and what you're doing. You're an integral part of our sport, and we appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Willie. Stole a little bit of my thunder because I'm going to talk about it myself, but let's talk about some other things first. The rules cycle, as you guys know, is a 2-year deal. This year's supposed to be a non-change year. Good luck with that. There's a lot to be seen in this video, a lot to be heard in this video, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Obviously, some things happened last year during the regular season and during postseason in particular to make changes. Those changes in an off non-rules change year can be done for health and safety reasons, which is where the helmet rule comes in, and for the integrity of the game, which is where replay video review comes into play. So the committee made some changes. Back in June, our rules meeting, as you guys should know, has been moved up from what it was previously done years ago. We now have our meeting at the first part of June, which is a couple weeks after the finals. So things are fresh on everybody's mind. So you're going to get a survey at some point in April on what you think the game is like. what the rules need to be tweaked with, what we need to do. There will be, I'm sure, lots of comments with regards to video review after we go through our first season. So when you get that survey from the NCAA, it'll probably come on the RefQuest site. Make sure that you fill it out, send it back, and get your comments in. Coaches will get the same stuff. That's what the Rules Committee does that every year, and those items on that survey make a big difference in how we proceed with what we're doing. And I think the game overall, I think you'd agree with me that the game overall is better now than it has been in a long time. But I honestly think, from my perspective, it is really tough to officiate these days. It's fast, it's quick, it's got more stuff in it than when I started refereeing. It's hard for you guys, and I'm really happy that NILOA does what they do to keep you all up to pace with it. We'll do the best we can with stuff that we do from the NCAA as well. So anyway, the Rules Committee sends their stuff to Props, the Playing Rules Oversight Panel. They approved the changes in mid-May. And then since then, there's a bunch of us who've been trying to figure out the best scenarios that we're going to have to meet and how to figure it all out. So I did not do a PowerPoint today because that's still going to be made when we finally sort out all of the things that we need to deal with. The online rule book, which is already out there and published, has the changes in it. You're going to see the video today, which I'm sure that's not going to be the first time you see it or the last time you see it. This thing is going to be, you're going to have to see this a lot. As referees, we're going to have to deal with it. We are the ones who have to ultimately make the decisions on how this is going to work. So you're going to ask, what if this, what if that, what's this scenario going to do, what's that scenario going to do? The answers and results of those are going to come from this room, from the people on this, in our board, in this group. So that's important that you guys have that input, and it's key. I want to talk a little bit quickly about the Central Hub site. Cost is $100. Gives you the background checks, which are sometimes important, and now they're more important because some conferences in all levels of play are requiring them. The NCAA test is on that site. You need to pass the background check, consent for it, pass it, do the test, and register. That's all you need to do to be playoff eligible, playoff bound. You get an insurance policy, and there are weekly updates and videos that Don Zimmerman, Jay Fitzwater, myself, Willie all put together. Parts of those are going to be about the new rules. So you're going to see those coming out. I want to talk a little bit now about points of emphasis because they're just as important as any of the major rules changes we have. Points of emphasis, Willie brought it up. They're important. I went back and did some homework. Essentially, you look at what we did in points of emphasis years ago. The rule book never really had them in there. They had major rules changes. They had USILA had statistical stuff. I want to thank Virginia person Doyle Smith, who did all that stuff back then. He was amazing. Now they have other stat people that do it, but that book was awesome when I was younger. So anyways, let's talk about points of emphasis. I went back and looked. The first time I could find points of emphasis in the rule book, you guys know I have a lot of rule books in my house. I'm only missing a couple from 1964 on. Any idea when the first points of emphasis was in the rule book? Anybody know when that was? Any guesses? 91's a good guess. 88. Any idea what the topic was? Bingo. This was the wording. Officials, this is their points of emphasis. Officials' failure to use the illegal team personnel action call when appropriate. 35 years ago. We cleaned it up a little bit, but maybe not enough. Same thing in 1989. It's now known as the bench technical. Stronger language that says the game suffers when the coaches area, the bench area, are not disciplined and orderly. 1990, they had another one blurb in there that was not too bad. but I want to bring this up because I think it's important. We talked about it in some of these presentations we've done. This was the first time anybody really mentioned advantage lost or gained. Officials must exercise judgment in regard to the spirit and intent of technical fouls and rule on advantage gained or lost. So way back then, they were talking about advantage gained or lost. That's how you ref. That's how you referee. I'm going to give you the last fact. This is back to sportsmanship. Over the last 16 years, points of emphasis has had bench decorum, sideline behavior. How many times out of 16 years?
16.
Should be 16, but it's 14. Should be 16, but it's 14. I don't know why. 2-year cycle, I guess. PJ hit on this earlier, so did Willie. I guess it's time we should clean this up. In today's world of sports media, instant criticism, 2024 is way different than it was in 2000 or 2010 or even 5 years ago. Social media is a big deal. Our whole world's changed. Everything's more visible. Everything's more emotional. It happens every day on TV for everybody, and it's instant. Coaches coming on the field for several yards to argue, intimidate, use foul language and gestures is in the book. We can't tolerate it. And I'm not saying throw the book at them. We have to do what we have to do. And there's a difference between a coach coming out and yelling at you and a coach coming out to yell at his player or to try and get a timeout. And we have to decipher which is which. Men's lacrosse has fallen behind other sports, and we need to be better at setting that standard. I think the message is clear. We've had it mentioned a lot in the last couple hours. Create a positive image for the game. You're going to hear that comment in the video. Those are someone else's words. I didn't come up with those. But that's what we need to do, create a positive image for the game. And that's a two-way street, guys. PJ pushed on it a little bit. We must maintain professionalism. If a coach uses foul language, referees can't. We can't do it. Social media is not our friend. Okay, so now we're going to show the video. There's 22 minutes of this thing, actually 21:50 or something, so it's long. There's video in it, but there's not a lot of video that says this is right or this is wrong. You need to listen to what's being said by the voiceover guy, and you need to listen to this thing and watch it more than once. So pay attention. I know it's important that you guys talk to each other. Oh, geez, there's PJ making a call, or there's somebody making a call. And there's always times in this video when we talk about other stuff in the corners of the room. Try to be quiet so we can listen to what it says. It does get a little bit mundane in the middle of it, but it's really important. There's a lot of stuff here. So like I said, watch it many times. The video review stuff is in the rule book. So are the helmets. Video reviews covered in rules 4, 33, 34, 35, and they're on page 55 to 58. Helmets coming off is covered in rule 6.6, a new letter, AA. We have so many things in 6.6. We're now beyond the normal alphabet. That's on page 74. You need to pay attention really closely to the ARs 38, 39, and 40. Okay, so we're going to basically do the video now. We'll talk about some stuff afterwards. I will also talk about real briefly later on about schedules. Turn it off.
To give us this opportunity to play this game we love. Lead him in well. Touch gloves. Guys, come across. Meet your opponents.
Welcome to the 2024 preseason NCAA Men's Lacrosse Rules and Officiating video. This presentation contains significant rules changes for the upcoming season, points of emphasis, and officiating guidance. Numerous video examples have been selected to illustrate and enhance the understanding of the rules for officials, coaches, and student athletes. Please note that there was no intent to embarrass any institution, coach, student athlete, or official with the selection of these clips. The Rules Committee would like to bring the following items to the attention of the men's lacrosse community through the points of emphasis. A full list of the points of emphasis can be found in the online-only version of the 2023-24 NCAA Men's Lacrosse Rules Book. Players are required to wear their equipment properly. There is zero tolerance for helmets coming off during live play. In addition, other equipment, including shoulder pads, chest protectors, gloves, and arm pads, must be worn as designed. Head coaches will certify during the pregame meeting with the game officials that their team is properly equipped. The pregame equipment certification by the head coach and official shall act as the team warning. As a friendly reminder, Rule 121B states that a white or light-colored uniform shall have dark-colored numbers. A dark-colored uniform shall have light-colored numbers. Uniforms, and specifically uniform numbers, serve a purpose, and when numbers do not clearly contrast, it makes it challenging for officials, fans, broadcast partners, and coaches to clearly identify a player. The Men's Lacrosse Rules Committee may look at future rules changes if this is not addressed. The Men's Lacrosse Rules Committee was asked to clarify the rules around goal nets, as historically they have been largely silent. Provided that the mesh of the net does not exceed 1.5 inches, it may be of varying shapes. For example, a square, hexagon, octagon, etc. In addition, advertising on goal nets has made it challenging for officials to see if the ball has crossed the goal line or entered the goal. Only institutional, commercial, and memorial logos are permitted to be affixed to the back center of the goal nets, no higher than 3 feet facing outwards. The Rules Committee urges a continued commitment by coaches, players, and administrators to uphold and respect the game to the highest level, both on and off the field. A continued commitment is needed to ensure that all participants are working together to foster good sportsmanship and to continue to promote a positive image for our game. Coaches and players are reminded to remain in their respective areas on the sidelines. The committee is noticing a troubling trend across all divisions of players standing too close to the boundary lines and coaches entering the field of play. Coaches and officials are instructed to work together to ensure that coaches and players remain in their respective areas. Let's start with the rules changes that were made during the annual meetings in June. Although this was a non-change year, the Playing Rules Oversight Panel does permit rules changes in a non-change year for the integrity of the game, as well as for health and safety purposes. The Rules Committee addressed several rules changes, with only the most significant changes covered in this video. Please refer to the summary of changes for the 2024 season on the Men's Lacrosse NCAA.org Playing Rules page for a complete listing of adjustments. Rule 6.6AA states that during a live ball scenario within the scrimmage area, anytime a player's helmet comes off their head, the officials will stop play immediately. That player is required to leave the field of play. Play is to be restarted once that player reaches the substitution area, and that player may not return until the next dead ball following the restart of play. In 2024, the player possessing the ball loses his helmet. Play is stopped immediately, and that player must come off the field until the next dead ball following the restart of play. This season, as soon as the helmet comes off, play shall be stopped immediately. In this clip, the player in black must leave the field of play. In addition, the team in white had possession, so the player in black must leave the field and is assessed a 30-second technical foul. The player in black may not return until the next dead ball following the restart of play. In this clip, the player in blue must leave the field of play until the next dead ball following the restart of play. Because this play involved illegal contact by the team in white, the team in blue will retain possession. We will revisit this play later in the video. The Rules Committee and the Playing Rules Oversight Panel approved adding a permissive rules change which has expanded video review for goals, certain timing plays, and a coach's challenge for regular season and postseason play. Rule 433 states, "The use of video review is a permissive rule and not required. However, if used, the rules outlined in Rules 433, 434, and 435 must be followed. The referee and either the umpire and/or the field judge may use the designated video monitor located at the table area to review the following. 1. To correct the game clock and/or the shot clock when there is a malfunction or timing error. 2. To review the release of a shot at the end of a period in relation to the expiration of time for the game clock or the shot clock. 3. To review if a shot at the end of a period is deflected off of a defensive or offensive player before it enters the goal. 4. To review if a shot hits the camera mounted inside the goal cage. 5. To determine if a loose ball crosses the goal line. 6. To determine if the ball crosses the goal line before the dislodgement of the goal cage. 7. To determine if an offensive player's body made contact with or landed in the crease prior to the ball crossing the goal line. 8. To determine if an offensive player landed in the goal mouth prior to or after the ball crossed the goal line as a result of illegal contact by the defense. 9. To determine if an offensive player landed in the goal mouth as a result of illegal contact by the defender. 10. To determine if a goal was scored as a result of the head of the shooter's cross coming off during the shot or follow-through. The television crew may provide a burn-in view of the game clock, which is the official timing device. Any artificial device, for example a television graphic, is not to be used for this purpose. Conclusive video evidence must be present for the call on the field to be overturned. Video review shall be provided by the home team, independent of the team bench areas. If available, video review shall be used. Conclusive evidence must be present to overturn a call on the field. Here, a goal was called on the field. Upon further review, it appears that the player in blue's foot may have swiped the goal mouth, or the foot may be just above the goal mouth in the air. There is not conclusive evidence on this play to overturn the call on the field. The following clips are examples of if video review had been used on these plays, and there was conclusive video evidence present to overturn the call on the field. In the past, video review was only permitted for limited timing scenarios and certain goal-scoring plays during postseason play. This year, video review is expanded to other scoring opportunities as a permissible rule to the regular season as well. In this clip, officials correctly used video review to determine that the shot was not released prior to the game clock expiring. The television crew may provide a burn-in view of the game clock, which is the official timing device. Any artificial device, for example a television graphic, is not to be used for this purpose. Conclusive video evidence must be present for the call on the field to be overturned. Contact to the head and/or neck area may only be reviewed if the on-field official makes a call of contact to the head and/or neck area. 1. Officials may only use this procedure if a contact to the head and/or neck area is called on the field. 2. Officials will notify coaches before starting the review. 3. Officials have 4 penalty options to consider under this review. A. Indirect contact to the head and/or neck area. B. Direct contact to the head and/or neck area. C. Excessive or flagrant contact to the head and/or neck area with possible expulsion. D. The officials may assess the appropriate releasable penalty, an illegal body check, unnecessary roughness, etc. Officials are permitted to review a possible infraction that was not observed during play. However, only contact to the head and/or neck area may be considered. Should the officials determine that another infraction occurred, they may not assess that penalty by video review. However, if the officials determine that contact to the head and/or neck area did occur, they may enforce those penalties under this rule. The official calls a cross-check on the field. Because the official called a cross-check, this play is not reviewable under the current video review rules for contact to the head and/or neck area. The official called indirect contact to the head and/or neck area on the field. This year, this play may be reviewed at the official's discretion to either confirm the call on the field or to determine the severity of the hit. The player in white directly contacts the player in blue in the head. This year, upon officials' discretion, the officials may review this play. Upon review, it is conclusive that the player in white excessively and flagrantly contacted the player in blue in the head. The player in white is subject to a 3-minute penalty with the possibility of expulsion for the remainder of the game. In addition, the player in blue's helmet comes off. That player is required to leave the field of play and may not return until the next dead ball following the restart of play. Lastly, it appears that there also may have been possible illegal contact from behind by another player in white. Since this contact was not called on the field, the officials cannot assess a penalty for that illegal contact. Officials may review unobserved possible contact to the head and neck area, but may only assess penalties for contact to the head and neck area in those situations. A coach's challenge may only be requested for the reviewable items in Rule 433. A coach may use a challenge up until the last 4 minutes of regulation. Referee discretion may be used at any time during the game. A team will be permitted 1 coach's challenge each half. If a coach's challenge is unsuccessful, that team loses its challenge and will be charged a timeout. If the challenge is successful, they will retain that coach's challenge and the timeout. Should a team no longer have any timeouts remaining, a coach may not challenge a call on the field. Challenges do not carry over from each half or into any overtime period. All reviews in the last 4 minutes of regulation or any overtime period shall be reviewed by referee's discretion. If a team wishes to challenge a goal called on the field, the head coach must challenge prior to the start of the next face-off by throwing the red challenge flag. If a team wishes to challenge a non-goal call, the head coach must throw the red challenge flag within 30 seconds and have it seen by one of the officials. A non-goal is defined as a scoring opportunity unobserved as a goal by game officials. The officials will use the shot clock to time the 30-second allowable period for the head coach to challenge. If, within the 30-second time period, a goal is scored by either team and the challenge is affirmed, then the additional goal scored during the 30-second period of time will be disallowed. If, within the 30-second time period, a penalty is called or a flag is thrown, the penalty or penalties will still be served, even if the challenge is affirmed. If the challenge of a non-goal is affirmed, the no goal stands, the time on the game clock shall remain the same as when the play was stopped for review. If the challenge of a non-goal is overturned, the game clock shall be adjusted back to the time of when that disputed goal occurred. As a reminder, coaches may challenge only those timing scenarios and goal-scoring opportunities outlined in 433 until the last 4 minutes of regulation. During the entirety of the game and in the last 4 minutes, an official may review these situations at their discretion. Contact to the head and/or neck area may only be reviewed by the game officials. A goal was called on the field with no flag for illegal contact. A coach may use a challenge prior to the next face-off to review if the offensive player landed in the goal mouth. These are examples of non-goal calls made on the field. In these situations, the head coach, prior to the last 4 minutes of regulation or overtime, has 30 seconds to challenge the call on the field. These are good examples of offensive players taking the correct path to the goal and diving without landing in the goal mouth or crease. The officials correctly adjudicated these plays. Players took incorrect paths and entered the goal mouth with either legal or no contact by the defense. These are no goals. Here are examples of illegal contact by the defense, forcing the offensive player into the goal mouth or crease. Illegal contact does not negate a goal that is scored due to illegal contact from the defender, provided that the ball crosses the goal line prior to the offensive player landing in the goal mouth or crease. The Rules Committee has seen a positive trend in face-off play based on feedback from the membership. Face-offs are conducted more quickly, resulting in cleaner face-off play and less withholding. The Rules Committee is requesting that officials continue to vary their cadence. As a reminder, there is zero tolerance for a player to not be positioned properly to begin the face-off. Officials are reminded to look for players positioned properly, going down together with the ball in the proper position, including players' hands not on the plastic at the head of the cross, and players' gloves touching the ground. In these plays, face-off players use their sticks to the body of their opponent. A violation should have been called in these situations. Face-off players may use their stick on their opponent's stick, but the players are directed to play the ball, not the opponent. NCAA lacrosse is seeing an increased emphasis on utilizing screens as part of offensive tactics. The Rules Committee reminds coaches and players that a legal screen requires the screener to stay within the vertical plane, including the cross, with a stance in which the inside of the screener's feet is not wider than shoulder width apart. The screener must be motionless if contact occurs. A screener shall not lean into the path of an opponent or extend hips into that path. Likewise, defensive players are not permitted to foul a legal screener. These are legal screens. These are examples of illegal screens. This concludes this video presentation. Thank you for your attention, and good luck this season.
Any questions? Okay, coaches are responsible to get their own red flags. They're going to find that out next week. They can buy a bunch of them for $29.99 or something at Amazon. Obviously, the videos are from last year, so there are some where the helmet pops off and we show play continuing. This year, what are we doing when a helmet comes off? Stop the play right then. And what's precipitated this whole thing is the conversation about whether or not it's a foul. We have rules in the rule book currently, and again now, it's basically a technical foul. Defensive players in the past had the option to continue to play or to go off the field. When a helmet comes off, they do not have an option. Neither do we. We blow the whistle. We award the ball to the other team. He has to go off the field. If the offensive team has the ball, what do we have? It's a flag. It's a technical foul. We had to stop play because the defensive player lost his helmet. Now, there'll be discussions next year on whether or not we make it equal for both teams. Helmets are different than the rest of the equipment, so make sure you get that straight. That's why I said read those ARs on ARs 38, 39, and 40 on Rule 66AA. Make sure you know those. Let's see here. I want to talk about, let's see, next stop.
Tom, I have a question.
Yeah.
The offensive player's helmet pops off.
Offensive player pops off, helmet pops off.
Can't come back on until the next dead ball.
That is correct.
Are we keeping track of that number on the field?
I would think we'd have to. Who else is going to do it, right? Okay, the question was who keeps track of the player? Trail official, I would say, is going to have to see that guy as he runs by him. Make sure that guy, number 10, number 12, whatever, doesn't come back on. The issue is going to be when you have a penalty. And in some cases, these are simple because all of these helmets coming off things are what we're looking at were ones that were not really major hits. If you have a major hit like the one in the Duke Notre Dame or Notre Dame Duke game, the scenario is that you're stopping play because there's danger or there's a foul, and you can adjudicate play. You can sort things out at that point. The offensive player losing his helmet can occur and did occur in the film without any penalty. He just lost his helmet. He has to go off the field, and you cannot restart play until he gets over there. No quick restart on that scenario. Don't rush. Helmet comes off, don't rush to restart. That player has to be off the field to play. And when the restart occurs, he needs to be in the bench area, and then he cannot come back until the next stoppage of play. The committee was extremely serious about this, and you guys tell me why. I talked about points of emphasis. They had it in there. Coaches didn't do their due diligence, and neither did we. So now it's a rule. How many helmets came off in the fall? Anybody see a helmet come off a player in the fall? There weren't many. There weren't many. Hang on, Bert. There weren't many. Kids got the message. Players got the message. I have Zoom calls next week with 2 conferences in Division I, and I had a bunch of them in the last few months. All the coaches are on those Zoom calls. They all know that their kids have to be strapped up. The message is now out there. So hopefully we won't have to deal with this. They'll wear their equipment properly.
And if they do come back on,
If they do come back on too soon, what do you got? He came back on the field too soon. Technical foul.
So is that a turnover if the offensive guy
Yes.
loses his helmet?
Yes. Yeah. Anytime a guy loses his helmet, if you got, and you'll see it, it's in the book. That's why I said read those things in the book. All of those scenarios are in there. ARs 38, 39, and 40 on page 74. Okay? Let's see. There's another scenario with replay. I want to go to replay for a second. I heard some mumbling, and probably some of it was me, too. The idea is what constitutes 30 seconds on a play that hits 2 pipes a goalie and we don't call it a goal. Keep in mind, this is for video review only. If you don't have a game that has video review, you need to just referee and do your job. Don't worry about anything else. I don't want anybody to get wrapped up in video review and forget to do the things they need to do. We have to be referees first. There won't be many reviews if we get the first part right. So, some Division I conferences will use it. I don't anticipate many Division II or IIIs will use it. It costs money. It's $1,000 or more for another monitor at the table, another paid person that has to be there to help you run it. Schools are not playing lacrosse or canceling games or canceling all of their sports programs now. Money's an issue. I don't see a lot of them doing this right away. These are baby steps. Other sports have it. I can tell you ice hockey has it. They're trying to back away from video review. Offsides play. We had that at VMI. It was brought up earlier in one of our other discussions earlier. We had video review it, and the coach from VMI was asking, he goes, they scored a goal, but they were offsides. Can I ask for review? No. It's not one of our deals. So you got to know what those deals are. We'll probably have to have a cheat sheet for you. I would express importance in making sure that you have that in your referee bag. Those pages highlighted, laminated, whatever. Know what video review is. But I don't think we're going to see it a lot right away. So the issue is now, what do you do with the 30 seconds? How do you have a double pipe or a goalie hitting the head, hits the pipe, whatever, comes out, and all of a sudden they clear. And now there's a quick pass, and then there's a slash on the team who just thought they scored. And then there's a goal at the other end. You got a lot of stuff to deal with, fellas. So what are you going to do? You got to play like that, and you got a game that you're doing that has video review, and you got a play that goes bingity bang boom, and you look at your single side official, and you're the lead, and you go, oh shit, now what? They pick the ball up to start their clear, blow the whistle. Go look at it. You have the right to do that in a game that has video review. Don't let it get to the next stage if you can avoid it. Because trust me, it's going to be a mess to clean up. All right? So it says 30 seconds, monitored by shot clock. We'll figure out what we got to do with it. And that probably won't be resolved until we start playing games.
So, Tom, to repeat, your Waltism on don't let that happen is truly don't let that happen.
Everybody understand PJ's point?
See what I say that, man?
Don't let that stuff happen. All right? So if you have a play that's a double piper or one that's like we saw that hit two pipes and then the ground, you might look at it a million times and still not be very sure of anything. You're going to see rubber pellets popping up and you don't know if they're white or dark. You don't know what the deal is. You may not, it might not be conclusive. I think some conferences, getting back to who's going to have it, you'll see some ACC teams using it. You might see, shockingly enough, you might see some Patriots doing it because they do it, have their field set up already for football. So be prepared for it. Make sure you contact them as the referee prior to 1 hour before the game to find out what they're doing. It's important to know that going in, what you have to do. Find the person with the monitor. Find the person who's going to help you. I can tell you this, the discussions between some of the leagues who've decided maybe not to do this in regular season are, are based upon they may not have enough cameras, they may not have enough personnel, and they may not have enough Wi-Fi. All the coaches in D1 have iPads. So if you see a bing, bang, boom, double, triple piper, and all of a sudden they start screaming, they have the right to challenge that. Stop it as soon as you can, but you might not be able to see anything on replay. It needs to be conclusive. And you called it no goal, stays no goal. Okay? The Wi-Fi for the visiting team might not be as good as the Wi-Fi for the home team. Funny how that happens. But it's true. They have different, they might use Score Break. They might use DV Sport. They might use whatever they have. It might not be the same as what the other team has. So a lot of these conferences, the coaches are in odds with each other on whether or not they actually want it. So you'll see it maybe in televised games where there's more potential for more cameras and that situation is better. So, like I said, baby steps, it's going to happen. It's probably going to come into fruition. Hopefully, the NCAA made sure that we tried to keep it really simple. Goals and contact the head and neck. We don't want offsides. We don't want holding. We don't want people to judge what we do as referees. So we need to do our due diligence and be referees first and not worry about replay. The only thing I will tell you, and I said it earlier, is if you have contact to head and neck as a possibility, it needs to be called that way to be reviewed. Do yourself a favor. Coaches can't double check that. But they're going to go, PJ, what the hell are you looking at? Look at this. If you call it, cross-check instead of contact the head and neck because you can't go back and look at it. So they're going to pester you for that. So make sure if you have replay, you call it contact head and neck first. You can look at it. Any other questions with some of this stuff? And I'm sure there are probably a few. And if we don't have any, that's great. Because I'm not sure I can answer them all.
Is there a standard for the monitor that you have to look at, or can you do it with a telephone or an iPad?
The question is there a standard for the monitor? It's the home team's responsibility to supply the monitor. It probably will be an iPad. We did it in the MLL, and I'm sure they do it in the PLL now. Cell phones are not great to see replays on, and we did that in the MLL for a while. It's not easy. So yeah, there's a standard. The home team has to supply it. The visiting team cannot bring it with them. So yep, and hopefully there'll be someone there to help us. Any others?
Is there going to be a special mechanic that comes involved with
I got it, Keith. Yeah, that's all right.
Is there going to be a special mechanic that becomes involved with replay?
Yeah. One of the questions on the test, in case you guys haven't gotten to the test yet, I want to talk about the test briefly. I said it's on the NCAA site on RefQuest. It's also NILOA is going to send it out to you guys as well. You have to do one test this year. One test, one or the other. If you pass it on either one, you're good to go. If you pass it on the NCAA site, you're good for playoffs. That's the deal. Okay? They are not exactly the same. The questions are the same. Brian's will have 50 questions out of 80. I have 80 in my pool, and the 50 that you get will be rotated. There are some that are repeated on every test, but you have to pass one of those to referee, and you have to pass the NCAA test on their site to do the playoffs. So yeah, that's one of the questions in the test, by the way, if there's a signal for it. So everybody got at least one question right. There's a new signal for it. It's a TV box. And it said in the video, it's the referee plus one other official, umpire or field judge. If I'm the trail and the play is over there and two other officials have that call on the crease, I'm going to take the one that has the best view of it or thinks he has the best view of it. The other official should be doing what? He's got a lot of other stuff to deal with. He's got at least 20 players on the field and coaches yelling at him. So only one other guy over there to help. Talked about conferences. Some of them are, like I said, I know Virginia is going to use it during the regular season. So if you get a UVA game, you're going to have video to deal with. Syracuse will probably use it. I'm not sure if Notre Dame will use it all the time. Their women's team did not. This was a new thing for the girls lacrosse group last year. And in the women's game, they did not have many reviews. I anticipate we'll probably have more this year for men's because some of the big boys want to make sure they do it right because I know they're going to have it in some of their conference tournaments and they're definitely going to have it in the NCAA. So if you're of that caliber as an official, you need to familiarize yourself with that stuff and how to do it and be prepared for it. And if you're not of that caliber, and you want to get there, you need to know it. Any other questions with the film? That's good. I want to talk real briefly about schedule updates. Division I is unique. A lot of the Division IIs and IIIs have their stuff in, but Division I is unique because of TV and everything else they have to deal with. Nothing new there. Same guys that send their schedules in late for teams are the same ones that we're dealing with this year. For the record, Duke has 3 games on 4/27, in case anybody wants to do those. Notre Dame has a game against Maryland at a neutral site, can't tell me where. And the list goes on and on and on. I think Carolina has 2 games on the 20th. Syracuse had no scrimmages. Somebody else, it goes on and on and on and on. Denver's opponents, this is a zebra web glitch, the Denver opponents don't realize that it's the University of Denver. So when you go to University of Denver's overall entire schedule, it only shows 9 games. Hopkins is playing Denver University. So is somebody else, and so is somebody else. I deleted Denver University from ZebraWeb before I came down here. But I made sure I switched the games first so I didn't lose them completely. So we're dealing with that. So long story short, we haven't worked on, in the Division I part of it yet, any schedules to be started for signing. We will probably start that this weekend, starting tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday. I have to go Wednesday to the coaches' meeting down in Orlando. When I get back from that, we will have it fully done. They'll probably be released in the same fashion we did last year. We'll do scrimmages first. We'll go through the end of February with everything else for Division I. We'll release March and April. After that, probably in two sections. That gives us the ability to move guys up or down based on injuries and all kinds of other stuff, which is really the best way to do it. And I know it makes it tough on some of the other assigners because they have to do their stuff with turnbacks a lot more than we do. And I apologize for that, but it is what it is. Bert?
Is there any thought about moving to Arbiter for the scheduling so you don't have to do 2 different applications?
The scenario right now is we have ZebraWeb for this year. We actually toyed with trying to do the new way that they wanted to do it. It didn't work out too well. So we clicked back to the old section of ZebraWeb. So ZebraWeb is the men's lacrosse assigning platform for all of our stuff. It'll be that way for all of this year. What happens after that, I don't know. There's options of RefQuest. My honest opinion is Arbiter is not an option at this point for the NCAA for men's lacrosse, but that could change. Who knows? But I think RefQuest is certainly in the picture for that. Some of the conferences are dictating that they might want that to be the way that they go. But it's that way in some other sports. They have several assigning platforms, and you have to put your availability on several sites. I hope we don't get to that because it's really confusing, even with the way it is now. So let's deal with that when we can deal with it. But the answer is for this year, ZebraWeb is what we use, and that's what we're doing. When you get to the playoffs, everything will come from the NCAA RefQuest site. That's a separate deal when you get to the playoffs. Any other questions? If I forgot something, somebody please tell me. I think we're good, right?
One thing, Tom.
One thing, Willie's got something. Yep,
For you.
for me, all right.
Okay, you call, contacted Abbott, and review it. There's no contact with Abbott. Can you then call unnecessary roughness?
Willie's question was, if you have a call on the field, contact head or neck, and you go to review it, and you realize that there was not any contact to head or neck, can you lower that down to unnecessary roughness? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. I would hesitate if somebody asked me a question that says, can you call nothing? Can you go down to 0? You threw a flag. I think that's your answer. Okay? I think that's your answer. I can't think of anything else right now, so I'm going to hand it to PJ. Thanks, guys.